Welcome back, everybody, to the Just Talk Hoops podcast. Hope you all had a great week. Watched some good basketball this week. Maybe you're watching college basketball, right? UNC versus Kansas. That was a fun game. Or you were watching NBA basketball, the games of the week, etc. We'll get to the games of the week at the end of the episode today. For the moment, we're just going to do the Western Conference takeaways. We did the Eastern Conference takeaways last week. If you haven't seen that yet, for sure go back, check it out. Like always, if you want to read some of my stuff, title dash runners at or .net. Jeez. And that's pretty much the whole spiel at the beginning. Leave a like, subscribe, smash that subscribe button, and we'll get right into it. So we're going to do our takeaways for every team in the Western Conference. We're going to go division by division, just like we did for the East. And yeah, it's just going to be what I've seen so far from that team. I'm trying not to overreact about stuff, right? So it is like, here's what I'm seeing in terms of just like what I've seen so far, not necessarily trying to project a ton, just saying, okay, maybe they haven't looked like a contender yet. Even if they haven't looked like a contender yet, they can still get there, right? Or on the other side, right, like if they've looked much better than I think their ceiling is, then they might not necessarily perform at that ceiling for the whole season. But we'll talk about that for each team. So we're going to start with the Northwest, right? Let's start with the Thunder. Let's get the easy one out of the way. They're still the best team in the league. They've struggled with injuries, right? Chet has missed a little time. J-Dub's missed a little time. They're still the best team in the league. It doesn't matter. And, like, whoever wants to win is going to have to go through OKC, right? Especially in the Western Conference. Like, if you want to win, you're going to have to prove that you're better than the Oklahoma City Thunder. Teams like the Nuggets, the Rockets, who we'll get to in a bit, who are looking to contend in that Western Conference, they're probably either going to have to go through the Thunder or go through the team that beats the Thunder. I mean, that seems pretty obvious, but it's like, that's what you're going to think of it as. Like, well, this team beat the Thunder, so they can really, like, the Thunder are so good. They're so good that I just feel so, like, it feels like if any team is going to have a dynasty, right, since the Warriors did, it's going to be this Oklahoma City Thunder team. They've got such a great defense. They've got one of the best players in the world in Shea, and I know people hate him, but big whoop. They've got really, really good role guys. They've got a coach who's got them all playing really well. They're all bought in. It's a great team. And I think people like to discredit this team. People like to bring this team down because they say Shea is a free throw merchant, because they're annoyed because this team is really good. But I don't know. Appreciate that we have one of the best teams of all time that we're watching, After them, we've got the Timberwolves. They need to start beating some good teams, right? So far, they've beat some bad teams, like they beat up on the Jazz and the Kings, I think it was, and so they've won some games against non-contending teams, but can they beat better teams, right? They need to look like that team we saw in the playoffs. Obviously, we know this Timberwolves team can perform at a high level. We saw it in the playoffs last year. We saw them go to the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row now. They've beat teams like the Nuggets in the past. They've beat teams like the Warriors last year. Like, they've beat good teams. Now the question becomes, can they perform well enough in the regular season to get there? I think last year they were the 6th seed last year. And this year, I think the West is more competitive than it was last year. It's going to be more difficult to say, oh, well, you can just beat bad teams. And occasionally, like they've beat the Nuggets for years. They lost to them this year, though. Okay, so you can beat up on bad teams, beat the occasional good team. You can't do that and expect to be in the playoff race even. So I think it's going to come down to, can they beat these good teams? Now, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt here. Anthony Edwards has missed time, right? So that game against the Nuggets, the game against, I think it was the Warriors, Anthony Edwards wasn't playing. Was it the Warriors? I might be making that up. I feel like I remember him missing a game against the Warriors, but no, the Lakers. So they played the Lakers a second time and lost. They played the Knicks recently. He was playing in that one though. So him missing time, it definitely hurts that, right? Once he's back, they should have a better chance to beat these teams, like the Nuggets, like the Lakers, like the Knicks. But he was there and they lost. And the question now becomes like, what is the regular season ceiling for this team? I think we know the playoff ceiling is conference finals for sure, and then possibly a finals appearance, right? But now it becomes, okay, well, if they, like they need to make the playoffs first. Now, do I think this team will make the playoffs 100%? I'm not trying to overreact here. Like, this Timberwolves team will certainly make the playoffs. It's just a little worrisome. It's a similar thing we saw with the Knicks last year, right? Where it's like they haven't beat good teams yet. And I'm sure they'll get there. This is just what I've seen so far. But on the bright side of things, right, like Jane McDaniels has performed really well. Julius Randle has performed really well. And it's like you've got that same talent from last year. You should be perfectly fine, right? Next thing we've got the Portland Trailblazers. The Portland Trailblazers have been really fun this season because every team that plays Portland is on upset watch. They have done such a good job establishing themselves as that team who just messes stuff up. And I think we see this type of team sort of every year where it's like you can't get away with being sloppy against this team because they will punish you for it. And that's the Blazers this year. Right, they've got a mix of young talent, guys like Shaedon Sharpe, guys like Donovan Clingan, guys like Denny Avdia, who's been really, really good this year, Tumani Kamara. They've got a lot of that young talent, and then they've also got some experience, right? Jeremy Grant's been having a really solid year this year. Drew Holiday, who they just brought in this offseason, has been really solid. And it's like, okay, so you've got this mix of young talent and older experience. That's exactly what you need to be this kind of muck-it-up team because you've got the talent who's like this hungry young talent, and you've got these older guys who know how to play the game, who know how to show these younger players how to play the game. I think it's just a recipe for success for Portland. Do I think this team will be able to do much in the long run? No. But they are a team that like I wouldn't want to play them on a night-to-night basis because it's like they're occasionally just going to bring something that you weren't expecting, and they're going to really mess it up for you. But they've been really fun. Going on from them, we've got the Utah Jazz, right? I think the Jazz have been really improved from last year. Obviously, last year they were one of the worst teams in the league. They still look not great. They don't have one of the worst records in the league at the moment. They don't look... They can't do enough in a loaded Western Conference, I'll put it that way, but they've definitely shown some flashes, right? Laurie has been really good. Keontae George has performed exceptionally well. I've been really, really impressed with his production. He's been really good at creating for himself, create for others, stuff like that. I've been disappointed in a couple other guys, though. I've been disappointed in Ace Bailey. I've been disappointed in Bryce Sensabaugh. I'm really high on Bryce Sensabaugh. I've talked about him a few times on this podcast. I just think that he's someone who I expected to have a big year this year because I expected him to be one of the better scorers on this team, to do well as a three-point shooter for this team, and he hasn't really done that. Ace Bailey obviously comes into the league, and you expect him to be a good scorer, or at least have the ceiling of a good scorer. He hasn't once hit 10-plus points, which is somewhat worrisome. But I do think, he's got the ceiling, but he does have tendencies that don't exactly look like an NBA player. We'll have to see what he can do in the future years in Utah. Obviously, he doesn't need to be great this year because they're not depending on him for anything this year. It just, it's difficult to look at your guy that you took who supposedly didn't want to be there, and then he doesn't even look worth that draft pick. It's like, that's rough. Losing Walker Kessler is a big loss for them. Obviously, he's out for the season. with a shoulder thing. That is tough for them. He's been playing really well for them in the time that he did play. I'm really high on Walker Kessler, actually. I think that he's great. I just, like, if you're a Jazz fan, you're like, okay, well, we weren't trying to win this year anyway, right? We know we're not going to be great this year. Next year, right, when Walker Kessler comes back, hopefully Keontae George continues this production, maybe even takes an extra jump. Maybe guys like Ace Bailey, Bryce Sensabaugh figure it out. Lauri Markkanen continues to produce. Then you're like, okay, maybe we can do something next year, right? And then you don't have to worry as much about this, like, oh, like these guys, okay, these guys at the top of the Western Conference, maybe some of them are a little older, right? You look at a team like the Warriors, you look at a team like the Clippers, who we'll get to, those teams are a little older, right? So next year, 2 years, 3 years, they'll kind of have dipped in their level of production. The Clippers may have already done that, but they'll kind of have dipped in their level of production. Even teams like, we don't know what the Nuggets could look like in 3 years. We don't know. Like, there's just a lot of unknowns. And if you know that you've got these guys who are performing really well, if Walker Kessler can come back from injury, still perform like himself, then it's like they might have something going. So I don't think Jazz fans should be mad about the production of this team. I just think at the moment it's like, Ace Bailey, Bryce Sensabaugh, they've got to pick it up. But for the moment, you're just kind of still in that rebuild phase, and you've got a direction, I think. So that's a good thing to have. The Nuggets, the last team in the Northwest, the Nuggets look so good. They're the second best team in the Western Conference right now. They've got the best offensive rating in the league. They've got the second best defensive rating in the league. Look out, man. I think this team is as good as their championship-winning team on paper. I think they could be better. Jokic, we know it's Nikola Jokic, right? He started off the year, he was a little more passive than he normally is. He wasn't scoring the ball quite as much, but he's scoring it extremely efficiently. And then recently, he's really kicked it into gear. He's played extremely well. Jamal Murray has played really well, too. I've been really impressed with him. He's been efficient so far. He's, seeking that first All-Star game appearance. And Aaron Gordon, I can't say enough about what Aaron Gordon has done for this Nuggets team. It's so incredible to look at the difference between Gordon's original, like his original archetype of player and now what he can do for this Nuggets team. He's such a better shooter than he was. He's so much better at creating offensively than he was. He's so much better with the ball in his hands. Like, I think some of that offense or some of that athleticism has dipped a little bit, but he's been incredible. And when I say some of that athleticism has dipped a little bit, like he still had a poster on Quentin Post the other night, right? Like poster, get it? Anyway, moving on from that. So, he can still slam it. He's still one of the better athletes in the league. He's still one of the better dunkers in the league. But now it's like he's no longer so reliant on that as it's dipped a little bit. Now it's like he's not just a lob threat. Now he's also a self-creation threat. Now he's also a catch-and-shoot threat. And it's like, what can't this dude do now? Like, he's been absolutely incredible. He's still so good at using that strength, that athleticism, getting to his spots. And then you add all the rest of this, and it's like he's looked so good. If Cam Johnson can get going right from three, this team's going to be elite. I just think so far the three-point shooting for Cam has looked iffy. We know he can shoot, right? And so far it's been hidden by guys like Jamal Murray's been shooting really well. Aaron Gordon's been shooting really well. Jokic has shot well. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been great off the bench. I've been really impressed with his production. And I just think it's going to be a question of, for Cam Johnson, it's going to be a question of, can you get that three-point shot to fall? But I still think that the other things Cam Johnson has done on the court have been really valuable, right? He's been very involved on the defensive end. He's been very good at having the ball in his hands and looking comfortable with that. He's attacked the rim. He's run it well in transition. He's done a good job, getting 2 feet into the paint, kicking it out. He's done a good job, like attacking, getting fouled, getting to the line. He's done a lot of little things, and I think a lot of things that Michael Porter Jr. wasn't doing. Now the question just becomes, can you get to that scoring level that we saw in Brooklyn? Right? We know Cam Johnson is capable of shooting extremely well. He's shot extremely well everywhere he's been throughout his career, and now it's just the question of like, can you do that in a Nuggets jersey? I'm sure he will do that in a Nuggets jersey. It's been, I think he'll be fine. I just think it's going to be, that's something that you're going to want, especially come playoff time. You're going to want him to be productive shooting the basketball. Speaking of Nuggets jerseys, that's what we've got on today. We've got the Dikembe Mutombo jersey, the blue rainbow, one of my personal favorites. Rest in peace, Dikembe Mutombo. Moving on now, we'll go to the next division. We've got the Pacific Division, right? So let's start with all the California teams. We've got 4 of them. We'll start with the Lakers. They've been really good. They've been really, really good. I have been really impressed with the Lakers' production. I don't know if Luka and Reeves can continue this production. Now, Luka, we know, is one of the best scorers in the league, right? We know that Luka Doncic is one of the most elite, high-volume scorers in the league. He's averaging 37 right now. Is that sustainable, right? In their last game against the Atlanta Hawks, he only had 22. That dropped his points per game from 40 to 37, and it's like, is that what it's going to be? Is it going to slowly start to decline? Now, I still think Luka will be absolutely incredible on the offensive end. Don't get me wrong; he's been off to a great start. But can him and Austin Reeves continue this production enough, right? Like, Austin Reeves has also been going berserk. He's also averaging over 30. I don't know, like, is Austin Reeves a capable player of averaging over 30 for a full year? I don't really think so. But LeBron will come back eventually, and then he'll provide a little bit more of that offense, right? So then Austin Reeves no longer has to do quite as much on the offensive end because you've got LeBron to do some of that. Luka will still probably be your number one option, but now you've got a reliable second and third option, not just a reliable second option. It's like, that's going to be really scary on the offensive end. On the other side of things, though, I still don't believe in this defense. Currently, they're 22nd overall on defensive rating. They just don't have a whole lot of defensive players, right? Marcus Smart, I think, has had a really good year this year, but guys like DeAndre Ayton is not an elite defensive player. Guys like Rui Hachimura are okay on defense, but aren't enough to make up for the fact that you've got some guys who aren't as great on defense. And I still don't believe in that defense. I think it'll be fine for most of the regular season to have a defense that's, iffy, but then you get into, okay, like you get into that playoff talk and you're like, I don't know if this is reliable come playoff time. I still think they need a little more on that defensive side of the ball. I still think on the offensive side of the ball, they're going to need, on the offensive side of the ball, they're great. Can they continue this production enough that they'll win games even come into the playoffs? I don't know, right? We'll go to the other LA team now. We'll go to the Clippers. They have not performed well. Like the Lakers, despite having some of those weaknesses on the defensive side, despite me having some questions, that's just me nitpicking what has otherwise been a great start, right? Like the Lakers should be super happy with this production so far. The Clippers should not. They have not performed up to expectations at all. Beal has lost all the star power we saw in Washington, right? It's looking more and more every year like the product, like Washington's production was the product of not having anything else to go off of and being like, okay, well, I guess Bradley Beal will lead the league in scoring because no one else is going to do it. So, yeah, he's a good scorer when that's all he's doing, when it's a heliocentric scoring system. But then you look at, oh, well, he goes to Phoenix, doesn't perform well there. Now he's in Los Angeles, doesn't perform well there. So it's like, is he a guy who can ever be on a great team, a great offensive, or a great, even just a good team? It doesn't even have to be a great team. A good team that's looking to contend and actually provide value for that team. I don't know, right? Like, he hasn't done it yet. And he's not the only one to blame, right? So far, that team's rebounding has been atrocious. Outside of Ivica Zubac, he's been great. I'm really high on Zubac. But outside of him, that team hasn't rebounded well at all, right? There was something like they're playing the Suns the other night, and I can't remember when it was, but at some point the broadcast, they say, like they mentioned that none of the starters besides Zubac had gotten a rebound yet. And this was in the second or third quarter. And I was like, how? Right? You've got a great athlete like Collins. You've got a great rebounding guard like Harden. And you can't get a single rebound? But that's not even their biggest problem right now. Their biggest problem is they haven't performed on either side of the ball, right? Their offense outside of Kawhi and Harden looks incredibly stagnant. Their defense has dropped from third best in the league last year to like 27th in the league this year. Their defense just hasn't looked good. And then you look at the fact that this team is incredibly old and they're not going to get any better in terms of like, oh, well, they're just figuring out the NBA because they're young. No, they're incredibly old. And I don't know, like, hopefully for Clippers fans, this team will kick it into gear, right? For all 10 Clippers fans. I can make that joke. I'm a Nets fan. They hopefully can kick it into gear, but so far they've looked significantly worse than last year. You look at last year and it's like, oh, this team looks like a contender. Then you look at their offseason and you're like, okay, you bring in Brook Lopez, who should help a little bit. You bring in Bradley Beal, who maybe has something left in the tank. You bring in Chris Paul, who we know has a winning impact most places he goes. And you're like, okay, well, this is our year, right? This is our year to really contend. We've took that roster from last year and we thought improved on it. So far, it hasn't looked like they've improved. Now, once again, I don't want to jump the gun. So I do think this team could bounce back. I did really believe in the Clippers this year. But I don't know. So far, it hasn't looked like it, is all I'll say. So far, it hasn't looked like it. We know that teams struggle at the start. The Pacers last year struggled immensely at the start of the season and then proceeded to look really good, after the All-Star break and then went to the finals. Right, so I don't think you can count out this Clippers team, but when you're looking at a team that's pretty reliant on older players, some of whom are very injury prone, Kawhi, then you look at that team, you look at, oh, well, they'll be better in the second half of the year. And it's like, or maybe they'll be tired and worn down and their bodies will be kind of failing them in the second half of the year. And then they might look worse. So I think you kind of want to kick it into gear pretty soon here. We'll see what they can do. We'll see what they can do. So far, though, I've been disappointed. The Warriors, one of the other California teams, they started off really great, right? I talked about them a few weeks ago where I was talking about, hey, I underestimated the Warriors, and they started off really great. They've come back down to earth a little bit, right? They've started to, live up to my expectations a little more. The age of this team, I think, is impacting their availability, right? We've seen Jimmy Butler miss a little bit of time. We've seen Al Horford miss a little bit of time. We've seen Steph Curry miss some time. And it's like, this is the risk you run with an old team, similar to the Clippers, right? Where when you have an old team, they're liable to miss some time. When Steph is out, their offense doesn't look great. I just think, if this team can stay healthy, they'll look pretty good. But I still don't totally believe in this team. I still don't believe in old teams a lot of the time, right? And this team is old. I don't expect them to be... I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what I expect from this team because at the start of the year, right, they showed us that they've got a high ceiling. The question is, how low is that floor, right? So recently, they haven't looked nearly as good as they did at the start of the year. And the question just becomes, can they turn around and get back to that start of the year form, or are they showing sort of a dip? Sorry. Whoa. Now, I will say I've been impressed with guys like Will Richard, guys like Kuminga has had a decent start to the year. Now, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. Now, once again, I don't want to beat up on this team just because they've lost a few games. They're still at 500, which isn't terrible. But when you go 4-1 in your first 5, and then after that go 1-4, it's like, okay, let's get it together and get back to that 4-1 level, right? I think they could get back to that, especially once Steph comes back, right? Missing Steph for games definitely hurts your team's ceiling, but I just don't totally believe in that team. It's difficult for me to wholeheartedly say like, oh, this is a team that could contend for a championship because they don't totally look like that to me. The Kings, the Kings have a really fun storyline and also not as fun of an outcome. Russell Westbrook is back, which is awesome. He has been. Let me just look at the stats real quick. Russell Westbrook, so far in the year, he's averaging 16, 7, and 6, which doesn't look great until you look at his past 3 games: 24, 6, and 9, 23, 16, and 10, 26, 12, and 6. Come on, man. That's so cool to see. Because he wasn't even signed like until, I don't know, a month ago, right? And he wasn't signed. It was like, is Russ going to be out of the league? And he comes back and he plays with this fire. And it's like, that's cool to see, man. I love to see it. Unfortunately, here's the bad part. It's not enough to win them games, right? DeMar, Russ, and LaVine have all put up good numbers. They just it hasn't translated to winning. And now it's like, what is this team's future? They're kind of in that dead zone of like, they're not good, but they're not really rebuilding. They don't have young guys. I'm like, oh, you're developing this guy. I do like Nick Clifford as a prospect a lot, but he's an older rookie. I'm a fan of Keegan Murray. I have his jersey, but he doesn't look like, oh, this is a franchise cornerstone. You're waiting to see that, and I just don't know how that comes about, right? It doesn't really look like they have a winning team right now, but also they're not like in a tanking, rebuilding phase. So they're kind of in that no man's land, which isn't a great place to be. Now they have played some really tough teams to start the year, so I'll give them a little bit of that benefit of the doubt. But let's be for real, this team doesn't look like a contender. I think we knew that before the season started. Even if guys like DeMar play really well, even if guys like LaVine play really well, I don't know how much those guys impact winning, right? I don't know how much their style of play impacts winning. And when the rest of the team isn't great, I don't think it's enough. Sorry, unfortunately. And, how long will Russ be able to keep up this production? I don't know, right? I think we know that this isn't really who he is at this age, but it is fun to see for, even if it's just for a few weeks. It's like, man, a Russell Westbrook, redemption year is kind of fun. And I don't really think he needed a redemption year. I thought he was good with the Nuggets last year. But, it's like he's back. He's back. He's trying to pad those triple-doubles so Jokic can't catch up to him quite as easily, but he's going to catch up. Jokic is going to shatter the record. He's going to, unless he randomly decides he doesn't want to play basketball anymore. But yeah. Now, last team in the Pacific Division, the only one that isn't a California team, the Phoenix Suns. I think they've performed solidly. I don't think it's enough to translate in the West, right? It's one of those teams where it's like, they're not bad. They're just not good. They're also kind of in that no man's land. I think like so far they've been able to kind of conceal the weaknesses in their team because some guys have really performed well. Like Dylan Brooks has done really well this season. Colin Gillespie has actually performed really well. I was watching their game last night against the Clippers, and I was really impressed with Gillespie. Grayson Allen has performed well. Devin Booker, we know what Devin Booker can do, right? Devin Booker is a really great scorer. He's a really great player. He's performed really well. And it's been like, okay, you have that stuff going for you. The thing is, what else do you have going for you? So far, Mark Williams has been able to stay pretty healthy, and he's performed well as that starting center, right? But will he be able to stay healthy? Then I don't know. This team does not have the talent to truly contend in this Western Conference, is what I think. I also want to see them play Malawach a little more. I do believe in Malawach. I still hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Malawach, I don't know. But I do believe in his ceiling a lot. The thing is, to me, like, what does he look like with this squad, right? Like, can we give him some minutes, see what he looks like? And I don't know. I think you've still got some stuff going for you if you're a Suns fan. I still believe in some of these guys. The question now becomes like, you know, is it like the question becomes what do you do in the future with this team, right? Because most likely you're not going to get rid of Booker. So, do you try and build a contending team around Booker? Do you try and get some young guys to develop around Booker? Like, what do you do there? I think there's just a lot of question marks with that Suns team. Hopefully, Jalen Green can stay healthy too. He, like, obviously, he missed a good bit of time at the beginning of the year. And then last night against the Clippers, he goes out with a hamstring thing. And it's like, that sucks to see. Like that was his second game back after having an absolutely incredible game. In that first, like, let me see, what did he had in that first game? He had 29. On his first game of the season, he looked really really good, and they won. And then they play the Clippers again, and he gets injured pretty quick into that game. It's like, damn, that sucks. Hopefully, it's not too serious. Hopefully, he can come back. And maybe, like if he can drop 29 every night, he'll go look like an all-star. Move on to the Southwest Division now. So let's start with all the teams in the Southwest Division that are disappointing incredibly because, start at rock bottom, right? The Pelicans. Oh my God, the Pelicans. They're a dumpster fire. And I try and be pretty positive on this podcast, right? I try and, not overreact to things. But the Pelicans are in a rough spot. Zion will never be able to stay healthy, and I hate to say it because I was a believer in this Pelicans team, right? If you look back last year, I believed in this Pelicans team a lot. Years before that, I believed in this team a lot. I can't justify it anymore. I cannot justify believing in this team anymore. Zion cannot stay healthy. DeJounte Murray experiment has completely crashed and burned so far because you trade away Dyson Daniels, who last year we saw him perform extremely well in Atlanta, and you bring in DeJounte Murray, who has missed most of his Pelicans tenure with injuries, and it's like not enough. It's not enough. When you've got so much injury history with this team, you just can't justify saying they're good, right? And now the future is bleak now too with how much they gave up for Derek Queen. They gave up their pick next year, assuming that randomly they were gonna be able to contend. I don't understand this. Let me go on a little rant about this. So you look at your team last year, who didn't perform up to expectations at all, right? And you say, okay, well, DeJounte Murray is injured again. So let's assume without Brandon Ingram, without CJ McCollum, that randomly DeJounte Murray and Zion are going to be able to stay healthy throughout the year. And we bring in Jordan Poole and we bring in some rookies, and that's going to make us good enough to justify giving up our first round pick from next year after our first round pick from this year was incredibly valuable. What? So you bring in Jeremiah Fears, who I really liked as a pick. That was with your pick, right? I think I'm pretty high on Fears. I think he's performed really solidly this year. But then you trade away your pick next year to get Derek Queen, assuming that you're going to be good. Based off of what? I don't get it. I don't understand. It's not a good trade at all. That was one of the worst moves that the Pelicans could have possibly made. And now and I understand that sometimes people overreact to picks a little bit, but that could potentially be a top 3 pick. And the way this draft is shaping up with Darren Peterson, AJ Debinsa, and Cam Boozer, you're going to give up a shot at those guys for no disrespect intended. I love Derek Queen. For Derek Queen, and I mean when I say it, I love Derek Queen. I've been really impressed with his play so far. But what? It's just such a terrible move. That's such a terrible move. And I don't understand it. And I don't understand what this team's trying to do. And now they've completely ruined some of that, some of the hope that they had of like rebuilding. Now, what do you do with Zion? What do you do with DeJounte? What do you do with these? Now you've got to hope that Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen develop to be better than whoever is with that pick. And I don't think the Hawks, which is who I think has it, are going to give that back to you unless maybe you're like, we'll give you Zion and some more stuff. Like, I don't know. It's been, what a terrible move. What a terrible trade. Speaking of terrible trades, let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks. Like that segue? I'm sure Mavericks fans don't. Fire Nico Harrison. Do it. Do it. Listen, I wouldn't say a defender of the move last year, but I was more of a believer than most people. Now, was it a good move? No, and I recognize that right off the jump, right? You're giving up Luka Doncic. Why would you ever give up Luka Doncic? But I'm pretty high on Anthony Davis. I think he's one of the best two-way players, right, in the history of the game, one of the best in the league. I was, when people keep saying, oh, he's super injury prone, I'm like, well, he hasn't shown tons of injury tendencies in the past few years, so maybe they believe. Then he gets injured, and it's like, well, I forgot that he is still injury prone. Like, even though he's done a good job staying healthy in the past few years, he's still injury prone, right? So you've got to recognize that. If you're Nico Harrison, you've got to say, hey, maybe let's not give up our superstar for a guy who's shown tendencies of being injured, right? And then, also last year, they gave up Quentin Grimes, and he is playing really well in Philadelphia. They brought back Caleb Martin, right? Who hasn't performed well. So it's like another terrible trade. Luka's playing so good, and AD is injured, and it's just not worth it. It was not worth it. And they luck into getting the first overall pick, which I think is absurd because that team, come on. And so they luck into getting that. They get Cooper Flagg. He's disappointed so far. They haven't given him the best opportunities to succeed. I think they could still definitely, bounce back. But at the moment, it's not a good move at all. Or it's not a good rookie debut or rookie season for him so far. Klay Thompson has looked awful. It's just nothing is going well for this team right now. And it's like, God, this is not what you want out of this team at all. I mean, fire Nico. Fire Nico. I'm officially on the fire Nico train. For a little while I was like, I still was like, yeah, that's a bad move. He should probably get fired. But I was like, it's not as bad as some people are trying to make it. It's as bad as people are trying to make it. It's bad. It's bad. Fire Nico. That's awful. All right, let's get on to a more positive note here, right? Actually, let's do the Grizzlies first because the Grizzlies are kind of in the middle. So we'll do our two dumpster fires, our regular fire, and then our two, not on fire at all teams. I don't know why. Whatever. Let's move on. Okay, so the Grizzlies have also got themselves into a fun situation, which is Ja can't figure it out. Ja has been immature. Ja has been, you can't rely on him to be on the court, whether it's from injury or whether it's from off the court stuff. And it's like, he hasn't grown up. He hasn't matured. He hasn't looked like someone who's completely focused on basketball. And it's like, how do you say, okay, stick around, Ja? No, we still believe in you. I think maybe you got to move on, right? I think maybe you got to trade him. Then who wants him, right? Who wants a guy who's shown injury tendencies, who's shown off-the-court tendencies? And when he does play, although he's performed well, it hasn't been, enough to, look past that stuff. And it's like, that's just a disappointing way to, there's just a disappointing way for such a great career to unfold. He has so much talent and he has so much ability, just for it to be ruined by injuries and other stuff. And it's like, That's so disappointing. He got suspended for another game. Like last week, he missed a game because of suspension. It's like, what? Like, what are we doing, Josh? Like, it's just immature. It's unfortunate. And it's annoying to see guys kind of throw away their shot at greatness because they can't keep themselves controlled. I think it could be time to move on from this core group. The West is just too good to have so many weaknesses as a team, to have your star player, with so many weaknesses. Now, I will, they've struggled with injury, which I think is part of the reason why they should look at maybe like what is the future of this team. Now they still have, they still have won some games. They still have some talent. It's just like, I don't know. It's not enough to contend in this Western Conference. And I've been a Grizzlies believer for years, right? Like this year, I still believe in the Grizzlies. I said to one of my friends, I was like, this is my last year believing in the Grizzlies. It was the same thing as the Pelicans, where I was like, I believe in them for one last year. I shouldn't have believed in them even for this year. I've been too high on the Grizzlies for years, and now it's sort of starting to fall apart. So next year, I will most likely have the Grizzlies lower. Now, once again, they could still bounce back. They've got a lot of basketball left to play, right? I'm not saying, blow it up immediately. I'm saying continue to watch this team and be real with yourself about how good is this team really. Now we'll move on to the good teams, all right? I've been a little bit too negative. Let's get to some positive stuff. Let's talk about the San Antonio Spurs. They won the most important lottery in 20 years. They did. Wembanyama, I would rather be a basketball team and win that lottery than the Powerball, because Wembanyama is so ridiculously good that he's generational. He's generational for sure. And then you look at the rest of that team, and you've got some solid guard play. De'Aaron Fox just came back. Dylan Harper has looked legit in his rookie year. Devin Vassell has looked good. Stephon Castle has looked good. They've got role players who are performing well, guys like Harrison Barnes. That team is legit, and they're 7-2 right now. How will they do as the year progresses? I don't know, right? How will they do when they face teams that are, looking to contend? I don't know. But right now they look legit. And if not this year, then next year they'll be in contention for potentially a championship. This team is nuts. Props to the Spurs, man. It's absurd. And I really like a lot of these guys, so it's fun. It's not like, oh man, we're going to, there's nothing we can do. They're going to be good. This is annoying. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. Wembanyama's fun to watch. Now, the Rockets. The experiment is working. The big lineup has worked. KD has fit in really well. Amen Thompson has done decently as your starting point guard. Şengün. Now they've moved Steven Adams to the bench. They've started starting Josh Okogie, who's performed well. Şengün's been really good. Jabari Smith has performed, and it's this team looks good. They look really good. They're clicking on both sides of the ball so far. Their defense and their offense have been really impressive. I still do worry about that point guard play a little bit, right? Amen Thompson, I know I just said he's been good, and he has. But now the question becomes, how comfortable will he look once teams start putting more pressure on the ball handler, especially once you get to that time of playoffs? Once it becomes a little more okay, you got to deal with the responsibilities of a point guard. And then, a guy like Reed Shepherd is he going to up his level of play and then make it so that you can rely on him a little bit more? I don't know about that. I worry about that point guard play a little bit, but the team still looks really good. I believe in the Rockets. I'd say, to me, they're currently my third best team in the West. Right? I think I'd go Thunder, Nuggets, Rockets, Lakers. After that, it's kind of maybe the Warriors. I don't know. After that, it's kind of the Spurs. The Spurs. I think it's the Spurs right now. I don't know. It's been a really interesting year. It's been a really fun year. There's been a lot of good stuff going on. We will get on to our games of the week now. Those are all of my takeaways for every team in the West. So, games of the week. Let's talk about our games from last week, right? We went 5-2, which brings our total up to 14-5, which I will definitely take. That's for this year. Our total is now 49. I'm just updating it right now, and 30. So we're almost to 50 and 30. I would like to get to, that's a decent. I'm pretty happy with that. So Bulls versus Knicks. I said I keep betting against the Bulls, and I feel kind of bad, but I've been right every time. The Knicks won that one. Mavs Rockets. I haven't expected the Rockets or the Mavs to be this bad, and I said the Rockets were going to win that one, but I was like, hey, maybe the Mavs will have a bounce back. They didn't. Magic Hawks. I said the Magic have disappointed me this year. Hawks have started to sort of turn around, and the Magic. I don't know. I talked a little bit about them last week, and I don't know. Maybe we'll see how they continue to do, and maybe we'll do a little more talking about the Magic. Maybe we'll have them be the centerpiece of an episode. Heat Nuggets. I said the Nuggets. I was at that game, so of course I had to say the Nuggets because I am the most valuable fan out there, sitting in the nosebleeds. Nuggets won that one, obviously. Clippers Suns. I said the Clippers. Clippers have disappointed. I wasn't expecting Jalen Green to go berserk in that game, so that one was wrong. Warriors Nuggets. I was at that one too. We happened, me and my dad do a quarter season package, and we happened to get both these games, which I don't know. It was pretty fun. The Nuggets won that one. That was NBA Cup play. I haven't talked much about the NBA Cup. Let me know if you want me to do more stuff with that. I just haven't been oh, it's an NBA Cup game, let me tune in. It's just been well, it's a basketball game, let me tune in. I haven't put a ton of stake into it. Then yesterday our game was Bulls-Cavs. I said Cavs, like I said, I keep betting against the Bulls. Now, they almost proved me wrong. That was close. That was closer than I wanted it to be. But the Cavs ended up pulling out at the very end. So that was a good game. Now this week, we've got Pistons going against the Philadelphia 76ers in Philly. I'm taking the Pistons, though. The Pistons have looked really good this year. They have been... They're 7-2 right now, I think it is. On the other side of things, the Sixers have kind of slid since starting off so well, and so I think that I'm going to go to the Pistons here just because they're on a hot streak. The Sixers are on a bit of a cooler streak. Monday, we've got Spurs-Bulls. I know I keep betting against the Bulls, but I'm sorry, I'm taking the Spurs. I just don't trust Nikola Vucevic to do anything against Victor Wembanyama. Tuesday, Warriors Thunder. The Thunder is such a free space. I'm taking the Thunder. It's like getting the bingo, and it's just the free space in the middle. They win a lot. Now, the Warriors could still do something here. That's why it is the game of the day for that day. But I will almost never bet against the Thunder. Wednesday, Nuggets going to LA to play the Clippers. I'm taking the Nuggets. The Clippers, like I said, have underperformed, and the Nuggets have been really good. Reason this is game of the day is because it's a playoff rematch from last year, which is always fun. Now that was a really close playoff series, but I'm taking the Nuggets. The Clippers haven't shown me that they deserve to be picked in any of these yet. Thursday, Raptors going to play the Cavs. There's not a whole lot of games that day. I think there's 3. This is the best one I could find. Raptors have actually bounced back really well recently. They've looked pretty good. They haven't looked as good as the Cavs. Give me the Cavs. Friday, Blazers going to Houston to play the Rockets. I told you any team that plays Portland is on upset watch. Give me the Blazers. Is that a good pick? No. I just wanted to have an upset at some point in this week, and this was the one that I could justify the most. Give me the Blazers. If I get this right, I'm going to be really happy. Saturday, we got Lakers-Bucks. Give me the Bucks. I don't think the Lakers have anything against Giannis. Who's stopping Giannis? Right? And I haven't talked much about the Bucks. I talked about them last week a little bit, but who's stopping Giannis? Nobody at all. And I get that you'll be like, well, who's stopping Luka? Nobody, but I trust them to be able to slow down Luka more than I trust the Lakers to be able to slow down Giannis, is all. So give me Giannis over on whatever the point spread, whatever the over-under for points is, and give me the Bucks. So those are my predictions. Hopefully that does well. Drop your predictions in the comments below if you're on YouTube. For sure, definitely, drop your stuff. Drop every week, do that. And maybe I'll get you a prize end of the year. I think I outlined my system last week. If you want a prize, so that's all we've got for today. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Next week we'll do something different, right? This is 2 weeks straight of takeaways, so next week we'll do something different. Maybe we'll do something a little more hypothetical, a little more fun. Maybe we'll get some all-time stuff involved, just because we've been talking a lot of current basketball recently. So we'll see what happens there. I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you guys enjoy these games. If you're watching college basketball, I hope you guys enjoy that. I hope you guys have a really great week, and I will see you next week on Just Talk Hoops.